All right, so you've decided to take this year's AP Physics Mechanics C exam. I want to go over some things about the structure of the exam, how I believe it's going to be administered, as well as talk about how I'm going to help you prepare for that exam. So let me just get my notes here. All right, so some just of the details. The exam is on May 11th, and it is at noon on May 11th. The structure of the exam is that it's going to be 2 questions. Now, here's the thing. The AP or College Board is, or the way I see it is that they are more concerned with cheating and plagiarism and exam security than they are really with testing physics. So this year's exam is probably not going to be very calculation based. It's not going to be like the problems that we're doing. It's going to ask you to explain things, which means that probably if we just covered all the content last year, you could have taken it, which is silly, but that's where it is. And the reason why they're doing that is because equations are very easy to cheat and pass around, apparently, is I guess what their fear is. And that fear is driving what the structure of this exam is going to look like. So you're going to find it's going to be a lot of writing and not a lot of math work. In fact, they say explicitly that you only need a 4-function calculator and you don't really even need it. So I'm not expecting to see a lot of long solve problem type things, but more what if scenarios, as well as testing things about labs. So what does that mean? So, well, here's the thing. The structure is as follows. There's 2 questions, a 25-minute question and a 15-minute question. Apparently you'll log on, you'll gain access to a question, you'll have 20 minutes in order to answer that question. Actually, let me just look at my notes here. You will have 25 minutes to answer that question, and then 5 minutes to upload it. After you answer that question, you can't go back to it after you've uploaded it, and then they send you another 15-minute question, and you have 5 minutes to upload it. The first question is going to focus on analyzing physical situations, about scientific methodologies, about being able to look at data and tell trends from data, as well as then use that to explain stuff. The second question is going to be a design your own experiment, and then say with how you would figure something out based on that, as well as then a reasonable discussion of error. So that's the structure. So it's not really at all what it is. Now they tell us that there's 2 questions that they model it after. The question 3 on the 2017 Physics 1 exam, and then the question 2 on the 2012 Physics C exam. So we'll end up looking at both of those. But like I said, you'll see it's going to be a lot of writing, not as much equation work as we normally do. So how are we preparing for this? Well, let's talk about the resources that you're going to have. First off, all this information that I just read to you, I'm going to post a PDF with all that information on it. The second thing is you're going to see 2 equation pages. One is the AP Physics C equation page. You need to download that one. That's one you need to use during the exam. And what's going to be important is for whatever equation work they do or have on this where they say derive things, that you start from the big premises that are on that piece of paper. Because it's not all the equations, but it's all the major ones, right? Or big premises like sigma F equals ma, sigma tau equals I alpha, major premise conservation of energy because work non-conservative is equal to 0, conservation of linear momentum because net external force is equal to 0, conservation of angular momentum, a new one that's going to come up this week. So major premises, work energy theorem, whatever it is, right? Kinematics are valid because acceleration is constant, independence of dimension, all these things. But you're going to want to download that sheet because you want to start always with equations when there's equation work. Now there's a second equation page that is there. And the second equation page is just actually my equation page that I've made for the course. It's all the equations that we've learned, even some of the more alternate versions of things. as well as it goes a little bit beyond our course as well, or beyond what we're doing this year to what normally the course actually ends up covering. So that's just a handy thing to have, especially if you go to college. Having that equation page if you go to college. When you go to college and if you take physics, probably more important to say, it'd be good to have. What else is there? Well, you're going to see this very large document. Egan and I call it the Bible. It's something that I wrote, and what it is it goes through every unit in the course. Actually, both physics, Introphysics 1 and Introphysics 2, mechanics and electrodynamics. And it identifies all the major problem types in the first year of introductory physics and talks about how you know what those problem types are and how you go about solving them and common misconceptions. Essentially, it's our entire course. Whereas our textbook right now talks about the content of physics, this Bible talks about how you do problems. So I think it's a lot more interesting. And it's going to be a really good way to review, to read over that. As I said, it's very long because it also covers the second half of the course. So if you go on to college, it's going to be a really good resource for you. If you go on to physics in college, I keep saying that. Right, so what else do I have there? The other thing that I did is I went through the last 27 years of Physics C exams and I pulled out all of the experimental based and design your own experiment questions. I'm going to be choosing a selection of them for us to be doing over the next course of the next 2 weeks. I also went into the Physics 1 exam and pulled out, since they rewrote it, to the first time they put the new version out was 2016. It's a terrible exam. I think it's really awful. But anyway, I pulled out samplings of problems we can see. So that we can see what the College Board is kind of thinking about in the way that they're structuring these questions. Obviously, the ones from the Physics 1 will not have any calculus, but we got to imagine that there's going to be some sort of calculus notion embedded within these problems somewhere. So just thinking about what the meaning of derivatives and what the meaning of integrals in terms of areas and slopes with graphs, I think is going to be an important thing to think about when solving these problems. So what are we doing from now? Well, there's going to be a series of, the next 2 videos are going to be me doing 2 problems. The first video is going to be me doing not the actual one they cite, which is the 2017 Physics 1 question 3, because that is on a concept that we will not get to until the end of this week, so I want to save that for next week. I pulled a different question for that exam, question 4. It still gets at the same type of problem we're expecting. The next one that you will see me do is the other one they suggest, which is the 2012 question number 2, which is a design your own experiment question. And actually, I'll do a third one, which is a graphical analysis-based question. And so those can be like the 3. These are the problem types we could expect on this exam. And then what you're going to see is a very large PDF that has all of those problems from the old Physics C exams, and another PDF with the old Physics 1 questions. And I'm going to set up a schedule for do this question. And then I will post an answer key to that, as well as I will post me doing the problem so that you can, if the answer key is not clear enough, you can use that. And I'm going to ask you to keep on the schedule that I'm going to set for you. So that we'll start pretty light this week, just doing a couple of problems, 1 a day. And then next week we'll be doing 2 a day up until the exam. Along the way, I'm going to put an assignment up in this Google Classroom that will say post, and you don't have to. That's if you want me to look over your work, like maybe you did the problem a different way and you're not sure if they would give you credit for it. You're going to be given an invitation to post some of your work that I will then give you feedback on. So that's the way that we're going to function. There will be 3 feedback checks between now and the exam, 1 at the end of this week, 1 at the beginning of next week, and 1 towards the end of next week. And so hopefully what the idea here is that you get in the habit of moving through the exam, thinking like the AP exam thinks, being able to look at their problems, and then being able to decode quickly what's going on, because you're going to find they're very wordy. And so just we have to be able to look at the problem and kind of know what it's about before we get into the words. Otherwise, you kind of get a bit drowned by them. So we're going to try and do our best to get you prepared for this exam. And just see what it looks like, because it's all new territory.